One of the most common questions students ask before traveling to China is this: Is China really a safe country? Many people hear very different opinions. Some say China is one of the safest countries in the world, while others believe it is not as safe as people claim. In some videos, there are even comments from people saying that is not true, or that foreigners should not trust that idea too much. So the real question comes up: what do the data say about safety in China? Is it safe to walk on the street at night? Are there common crimes such as theft or scams? In this video, we are going to talk about safety in China from two perspectives. On the one hand, the data and statistics, and on the other, the real experience of international students living in the country. Because when we talk about safety, it is important to go beyond myths and analyze the information more objectively. Hello, foreign friends. I'm Pamela, and I'm part of LivinChina, where we share real information about what it is like to live, study, or work in China. One of the topics that worries people the most when they are thinking about coming to study in the country is safety. It is completely normal to wonder what daily life is like in a new place, especially when it means living on another continent. On the internet, you can find very different opinions. Some people say China is extremely safe, while others believe that this idea is exaggerated or does not always reflect the full reality. That is why, in this video, we are going to talk honestly about safety in China, analyzing both the available data and the experience of many people who have lived or studied in the country. The idea is not to say that a place is perfect or that no problems exist, but to understand how safety really works in daily life, especially for international students. So now, let's see how safe China is for international students. General crime data in China. When talking about safety in a country, the first thing worth looking at is the general crime data. According to different international safety indexes, such as those published by Numbeo, many Chinese cities usually appear with relatively low levels of crime, especially when compared to many large cities in Latin America or some Western cities. In several safety perception surveys, many people living in cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen say that they feel safe walking on the street even at night. However, it is important to understand that no country in the world has zero crime, and China is no exception. According to the Global Peace Index, published by the Institute for Economics and Peace, China ranked 89th out of 163 countries in the 2024 edition. This index does not measure crime alone, but also factors such as political stability, conflict, militarization, and internal security. So although China appears around the middle of the global ranking, the everyday experience of safety can be different at the urban level. Large cities such as Shanghai or Beijing usually report relatively low levels of violent crime compared to many other megacities in the world. Most common types of crime. In China, serious violent crimes, such as violent assaults or armed robberies, are not very common in the daily life of most large cities. The problems most often reported in some cases are related to small scams, online fraud, or tricks aimed at tourists, something that also happens in many other countries. For example, in some tourist areas, situations such as tea house scams or inflated prices for tourists have been reported, especially in highly visited cities. So, as in any country, it is important to use common sense and stay alert to suspicious situations. The experience of many international students. Beyond the data, it is also important to listen to the experience of those who live in the country. Many international students studying at universities in cities such as Beijing or Shanghai often mention that one of the things that surprises them most is the level of safety in everyday life. For example, it is common to see people leaving bicycles or electric scooters on the street, walking at night in university areas, or using public transportation without major concerns. In addition, many university campuses have their own security, controlled access, and a fairly calm environment, which usually increases the sense of safety for students. Factors that influence safety. There are several factors that influence the perception of safety in many Chinese cities. One of them is the presence of many surveillance cameras in public spaces, something quite common in the country. Another factor is that in many cities there is a strong police presence and strict regulations, which can discourage certain types of crime. It also matters a lot that many Chinese cities have very active urban life, with people on the streets, transportation running until late, and very well-lit areas. All of this contributes to many people perceiving the cities as fairly safe places. A realistic view. At the same time, it is important to have a balanced view. China can be considered a relatively safe country in many respects, but that does not mean there are no risks or uncomfortable situations. As in any other place in the world, it is always recommended to take care of personal belongings, avoid suspicious situations, and stay well informed about the place where you live. Safety also depends a lot on each person's behavior and the environment they are in. As we have seen in this video, when we talk about safety in a country as large as China, it is important to analyze both the data and the real experience of those who live there. At the same time, many people who live or study in cities such as Beijing or Shanghai usually describe everyday life as relatively safe, especially on university campuses and in very busy urban areas. Of course, as in any country in the world, that does not mean there are no risks or problems, and it is always important to keep basic precautions in mind. The most important thing is to understand that the safety of a place cannot be summarized only by a comment or a personal perception, but depends on many factors. Now I would like to ask you something in the comments. Would you consider studying in China, or does the issue of safety worry you? And if you liked this video and want to learn more about what it is really like to live or study in China, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because at LivinChina, we continue sharing real experiences and data to help those who want to get to know this country. See you in the next video.